Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Detilio from Sosh, and you are listening to Social Soup, the podcast that serves up seasoned expert takes on marketing, business, entrepreneurship, and life. Hello, and welcome to episode 43 of Social Soup. I'm your host, Michelle Detilio, and today I have a return guest, Phil Gerbishek. And I asked him on the show a couple weeks ago, actually, to talk about resilience, because I think a lot of us are probably in need of some resilience tips. But as I was briefly telling him before we started recording, today was a day for me that I especially need to lean on some of these tips of how to be resilient. I had a client meeting that's actually, the client itself is totally fine, but I had a new participant in a meeting that was, I don't know, I don't want to say combative because I don't think that's correct, but it did have that feeling. And it was, I feel like, aimed at me, and I don't know why. And so much so that I went back and listened to the meeting to find out, like, did I say something? What went wrong? And I couldn't find anything. And it really, it crushed me. It actually made me feel really sad and mad and all of these things because, one, I never want to offend anybody. And I did apologize, and I still am not clear on what I said or did to offend, which is turning a little bit into anger because I don't know, I can't figure it out. But beyond that, as a business owner, as a human, we have these interactions that happen. And, maybe this person was combative because they're having a bad day, or maybe they felt inadequate for ways that I have no idea about. And people, this happens, right? We all do it. I've been combative for no reason. So I was like, thank goodness that I am talking to Phil about resilience this afternoon. So Phil, thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that the timing works out really well for both of us, right?
Yeah, really well. And I love that you shared with me that you're teaching art and how you're teaching art and all of that. I think that's wonderful. And working with kids is such an important thing. So you are just doing great things all around. And really the catalyst for having you on the show for me was that, man, I'm seeing so many things happen, right? And in the world, in our country. And one of the things that I have been doing is trying to keep myself really level-headed and strong, right? And we can't always be strong. And the word resilience kind of came to mind for me. And when I thought about that word and who to best discuss it with, you came up. One of the things I've been trying to do, I always say this go around because of my feelings about Donald Trump, which are not positive, is instead of react, I have tried to understand, which sometimes doesn't work. So far, I've been okay, but I think I've upset some people accidentally as well. But in this day and age, whether you like Trump or don't like Trump, or whether you just had somebody get mad at you for no reason, I think resilience comes into play. Like we all get knocked down and we all feel crappy and things happen, and we need to be resilient. So I guess, Phil, the first question I have to you is, do you have a time in your life that you face that there's a major setback or something that you really had to push through that you are willing to share?
Yeah, for sure. I've had a lot of them. One of the big ones is, I actually was kind of still going through it. About 18 months ago, I lost what I thought was a really good job. I had a good contract with an organization, and the bottom fell out. So I'm still bouncing back from that. That's why I'm still teaching. Not that I don't want to teach, but that wasn't. It really accelerated that plan. So, I think anytime that I've been knocked down job wise, that's a big one, right? That was. I'm still recovering from that. I still have my days where I'm like, come on, just I want a corporate job. That's the whole plan. So that's been really hard, I would say. And then another one, I've been divorced before. Getting divorced is brutal.
Yeah.
You need a lot of resilience. And again, that's ongoing resilience. The definition of resilience is bouncing back or recovering quickly from some difficulty, which is nice, right? But let's be honest, sometimes we bounce back a couple of times because like it hits us in different ways at different times. So I think it's the ability to bounce back, and then when we get hit, bounce back again. So those are two big ones for me that I can talk about that I've had to be resilient on. And there's, I still have days, like I said about the job thing, that's still like, let's go, right? Like, come on.
Well, it's almost like you're going, there's a grief that happens, right? Like an actual grief, because when we have to dig in and find resilience, it's usually because something negative has happened. And,
right.
People think of grief as like loss of a loved one and loss of a job and loss doesn't mean death, right? It can mean divorce. I've been through divorce as well. And grief is not linear. Recovering from it is not a linear thing. And so like I love / hate. I mostly hate those moments where you're like, yeah, I'm fine. Everything's good. And then something happens and you're just like, bam.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. No, I'm not. Never mind.
Yep.
Yeah. So you've been through it and I think a lot of people have, and I think a lot of people are going through it and I think that's a tough time. So, let's start with some of the little tricks. So, the little tricks that you do for just kind of finding your way out. And then we need to go into the bigger ones. Like when you're really, we're really struggling, then what?
Yeah. Well, the first one is one that you did, and that's a strong social connection, right? You actually talk to somebody about this.
Yeah.
It's really important to talk to somebody that gets you, that you're willing to be vulnerable with, that you're able to say, this kind of sucks and I want to get through it.
Yeah.
Because maybe we're not ready for that right away. Sometimes it sucks and we want to sit in the mud, and that's okay too, right? Sometimes it sucks long enough that we want to get out of it. Sometimes some of us just want to be resilient fast, right? We want to bounce out of that fast. So I think social connections is probably the biggest one. That's the biggest one for me. That's one of the reasons why that I've loved to be on the other side of the mic where you are, right? As a podcast host. Because I can ask questions. I can reach out to folks that have experiences that I don't have, that maybe you're more resilient. Yeah. So social connections is one. Self-care is a big one. Take care of myself. That's a really big one. How do I do that? Well, that's walking. It's plenty of water. That's rest, and it's sleep. Rest and sleep aren't the same thing, right? Rest is, close my eyes or sit still for a little while. Sleep is sleep. So I think both of those come into play.
And I think self-care is a really hard one in general, especially for people like you and I, but that fear of not being productive is such a big deal. And I think, I don't know which basketball player it was. It's not Charles Barkley, but I'm terrible with basketball players. But there's some big name basketball player that part of their regimen is rest. Like they have to take 1 day or 2 days a week, whatever it is, and just sit and watch movies all day, which would cause me so much anxiety, honestly. But I'm trying to learn. I'm learning and trying to get better at that. But I do I like what you say, the difference between rest and sleep and that self-care bit, but it's hard. I'm personally one of those people who has to, I want to fix it right away. I'm going to fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's so resilient. I think that's the resilience trap.
Yeah.
We want to fix stuff so fast that we don't give a chance to heal.
That's a big deal. And I've learned that with my daughter as she's going through her medical issues, because it's like, you have to feel it, or not the physical, right? But the emotional, you have to feel that. So it is okay. Even though I say that as a complete hypocrite because I'm so terrible, but you have to allow yourself to feel it, to be let everything wash over you, because otherwise it just, in my opinion, just gets pushed down.
Yep.
And comes back up later.
What's buried gets carried.
Yeah.
So you have to really deal with that. I mean, the sooner we deal with it, the better. I've been through enough therapy to know that if I don't deal with it at the time in a positive way, it's coming back. Stuff has come up that I'm like, where did this come from? I'm looking around. I'm like, my goodness gracious. It's one thing to be resilient. It's another thing just to pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that I think a lot of people do that. In fact, I know a lot of people who do it.
Sure. I'm guilty of that sometimes. You know, I'm guilty of that sometimes. It's
Of
okay.
course. Yeah. Yeah. It is really, and I think it's like everyone has their own way of dealing with things, but as long as you are dealing with them, because it does manifest itself in pretty negative ways. So it can be pretty rough if you don't deal with them. And I love the fact that you went directly to like socialization, because a lot of people don't believe this, but I'm innately an introvert. Like social interactions are, especially in person, in big groups, sometimes are really hard for me. But yeah, like today's situation, like threw me so much, not because there was conflict, but because of the nature of the conflict. I'm okay with conflict, but the nature of it was just odd. And like I needed a hug. Like like I could physically feel like I need a hug, you know? And and it was just, I mean, it's crazy. And I hope that people have communities, or at least, what do you need? You don't need 30 people you can call.
Great.
You need, yeah, 3 people, right? You need 3 people that you can call and reach
Yeah.
out to. That's really that simple. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And there can be 3 people that you're not particularly close with, but that you trust enough to share this with. And I think they're often 3 different people.
yeah,
And by that I don't mean 3 different people. I mean they're different people for different times.
yeah.
Some people are good for some types of scenarios. So other people are good for other types of scenarios. And I think that's perfectly normal. It's not just your besties. It can be other people that you rely on. They can be mentors. They can coaches. They can be other people that are available that you can talk to. They can be a therapist, right? I mean, I think that's a social connection as well that I think we often overlook, because a therapist really is the ultimate social connection, because they have no skin in the game at all. They just want you to be better. So they're going to ask questions to get to understand, because they don't have the same history on purpose, which is frustrating as hell sometimes. You go, come on, it's me. You know this.
Get it? Yeah. No, I agree, because it's different people too, and you have to be very careful with it, because people give and get, right? They'll give you different things. Like I know there are certain people I can go to that are just going to 100% just back me up. They're not going to challenge, right? And understanding yourself well enough to know when you need to be challenged versus when you just need someone to just give you the hug and listen, I think are really important things. So I understand like needing more than just like 1 or 2 people and 3. And have this is overly off topic, quite well, not off topic, but have you tried ChatGPT as a therapist at all?
I've thought about it. Certainly considered it. I haven't used it yet, but I've seen people who do that are like, wow, that's helpful. And I will say, last couple of weeks ago, I needed a little pick me up, so I asked ChatGPT, like, hey, so what am I not seeing about myself? Right? I mean, you probably saw me post that, right?
Mhm.
What does ChatGPT say? What do you see that I don't see about me?
Yeah. Mhm.
And it's pretty cool, because a lot of times it's our blind spot. It's our thing that we don't see. And then I posted it, I shared it, and then I got more affirmation. So not that I was in a super bad spot, but I certainly, I need affirmation as much as anybody else does. It isn't always just self-affirmation. Sometimes I need affirmation from others. So I've tried that for ChatGPT. And that is helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I only asked because I had a really great, I'm hesitant to call it a conversation, but a really great conversation with ChatGPT on Sunday that started with talking about the whole Mercury and retrograde thing, because I
Oh yeah.
don't know what it is. And I asked it to explain it to me. And then it went into the Big Bang Theory and religion and politics. It was just, yeah, it was crazy. And I thought, oh, I'm getting to like this too much. I need to step away because this isn't a real person. And let's not forget that. So, um, so let's talk about some long-term things that we can do to be resilient. I know you put together this really great list, and like, what are some of the things like we know? Okay, so something negative happens or something negative is happening. I like those first pieces, which are just like self-care and reaching out to some friends. What are some things that we look at long-term to keep that resilient, I guess?
Yeah. Well, problem solving skills are a big one. We have to practice our problem solving skills. Big problems, little problems, medium problems. We have to practice our problem solving skills. meaning we have to actually solve the problem. We kind of alluded to this before, that we actually have to deal with the stuff that's getting in our way. And I think that's something that long term is going to benefit us a lot. If we can go after those problems, really solve them, I think that's helpful. I think another long term one is just practicing some self compassion. Being really compassionate, grace with ourselves. Right? We give it to everybody else. Why don't we give it to ourselves?
Yep.
Kristen Neff is the Dr. Kristen Neff is probably the foremost expert in this field, and she talks about self compassion a lot. So she's definitely someone that I've learned from. I've read some of her work, read some of her articles, have not yet finished her book, but it's one of those books that you're like, ooh, that's kind of tough, right? Like it kind of smacks you right in the gut. And
Yeah.
I
I'll have
got
to check her out. Yeah.
pretty good stuff there. And then building confidence, right? Believing in your abilities and the fact that you can actually beat stuff. I think that self-belief, that takes time. That's not an immediate thing. You have to practice that. You have to be better at that. You have to work on that. Those are three big long-term strategies that I would offer to folks. Problem solving, right? Self-compassion, and then that building confidence, and then wrap that all up in some stress management techniques.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle stress?
Yeah, well, and I think one of the biggest things with stress is breathing, right? And that sounds so fundamental or whatever, but like there's so much research on what happens in the brain when we're stressed, and just taking a couple of deep breaths and trying to center yourself again and really calming your mind down, because we don't think straight. Like we literally are incapable of thinking when we're in these states of stress, anxiety, anger, whatever that is. And so I think that stress, and people, I think even so I'm very guilty of like poo-pooing that, being like, ugh, whatever. But it's true. It's terrible. It's terrible because I'm trying to get my daughter to do it as well. And she's like, I'm not going to meditate. I don't like to meditate. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I guess you'll just have to learn this one the hard way like I did. So catch me in 10 years when you figure that one out.
Well, the Navy SEALs talk about box breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Navy SEALs can box breathe, the Navy SEALs can box breathe. The fact of the matter is that most of us suck at breathing, or we're just consciously incompetent at it.
Yeah.
Right? Like we know we're not good at it, but we don't care because it's good enough. I mean, I'm still alive, so I can live. Right? Like I've got this. Right? But if we think about it, right, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in breath, hold it for 4, push it out for 4, hold it for 4. Yeah. Like it's not hard.
No.
But it is that complicated that our brain says, no, that's not going to work. Nope, I don't think so. No. Come on, it can't be that easy, Phil.
Yeah, it can't be that easy.
It is.
Yeah. And I am notoriously bad at breathing. Notoriously. Like I cannot inhale. I have an inhaler. It never works because I can never inhale it. And then I have the doctor give me one of those tests where you have to like breathe into the tube. Oh, he's like, come on, this is ridiculous. And I was an athlete, and I'm like, okay, I got problems. But you're right. When you actually stop and like I use the box breathing technique a lot. I should use it more, but that's what calms down the brain, because what people don't understand is it is attached to your amygdala, which is causing the fear and the anxiety. This breathing will shut down, and I think the neural pathways get shut down during moments of anger and anxiety, and these help open them back up. So it makes the prefrontal cortex start working. I think it is. I still have to work on my brain book a little bit more, but it does work. It's so simple. It works. And yet I was resistant to it as well. So.
What resistant? But again, I forget about it.
Yeah, totally.
But so we get a conversation about it, and like, doofus, why are you not doing this more?
Yeah. Like, come on, man. No, I agree. There's so many things where like, the answers, right? Like,
oh, sure.
You have the answers. We've been trained with the answers on how to deal with certain things. Yet in the moment, which goes back to the fact that your neural pathways are kind of shutting down a little bit, you're not thinking straight. You can't get there. If you would have just seen me and like Mark and everything, he sees me and like, you'd have just been like, okay, breathe. I'm like, what? Breathe?
Come on, give me something harder.
Yeah.
I'm breathing. Look at me up a lot deeper.
Let me, I don't know what I need to do. But yeah, I agree. It's a very simple thing to do. I think one of the things that's really tough is that when you talk about problem solving skills, identifying the problem is really, really difficult, right? Like, I mean, Mark and I have a normal relationship. We get frustrated just like every other relationship is. And, I'll get frustrated about this or that thing. And then as I get older, I'm learning to like, okay, really, what are you frustrated with? Like, why does this matter? And where is the root of the frustration? And I think that is a problem, like for all sorts of things, like what is really causing this frustration or whatever the issue is, the problem, etc. What's the base of it? What's the root of it? And so we can problem solve, but if we're problem solving the wrong problem, which guess what I do all the time.
I mean, like these are normal human conditions. Yeah. I mean, I think, when we talk about this, nobody is going to get this big aha from this conversation.
Yeah.
What they're going to get is a big like, oh shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
But it is, all this stuff happens, right? Solve the right problem. Get to the root of it. Solve the problem. Then we can move forward. But if we just solve surface level problems, the good news is we get better at solving problems. The bad news is we think that there are really problems that are worth solving.
Yep.
100%. And so we have to be really careful about that. So dig deeper, go below the surface, go down another level of problems, dig after that, go get it, and ask yourself, is this really the problem?
Yep. I love that. I have a challenging question. Well, I've always found this question challenging, so we'll see how you react to it. But how do you differentiate between pushing forward with resilience and recognizing when it's time to pivot or let go?
Ooh, yeah, that is hard. That is real hard because it really depends on the problem. It really depends on the situation. I mean, sometimes, I think it depends on what the impact is of the question.
Yeah.
What the impact is of the answer. And sometimes if it's really hard, well, that means that I need to spend some more time on it. Do I really have the time right now? Maybe not. So maybe put it on the calendar, right? Maybe I need to do a better job of that because I'll tell you, I like to solve problems as much as the next person, and I like to just move forward. I like to be resilient. I like to bounce. But again, like we've talked about, what gets buried gets carried. So I got to dig deeper. And then to your point about letting go, letting go is hard. Letting go is hard. I mean, I like to win.
Yep.
I'm competitive. I like to win. I don't like to lose. I don't like to lose a conversation with my wife, right? So that's yes. Perfect. Like, I don't even go. Mm-hmm. Letting go sometimes means I lose, and I don't want to lose. But sometimes I just realize I have to let go.
Well, and I don't. So it's an interesting thing because letting go doesn't always mean you lose. So there's actually I'm a huge fan of Pink, but Pink and Chris Stapleton song, I think it's called Sorry. And the whole idea is like, it's between, two lovers, and they're like, just say, I'm sorry. Like, and it doesn't mean you're letting go, because sometimes it doesn't mean you're losing, because when you lose, you win, just from that simple thing. Right. And I had an interesting conversation with someone last week, and one of their things was like, oftentimes in a case like this is that you realize when the pain of not letting go is stronger than the pain of holding on. Like, there's a moment in time for a lot of things that we deal with, right? And a lot of times people don't make decisions, or they don't make changes until like that, because we sit in comfort, right? Like, doesn't matter what you're trying to change. There's comfort in the devil that we know, right? We know this, and there's not comfort. And so there's that balance of like, where is your threshold? And obviously for each question, each situation, it's different. But there have definitely been times where, like, even with Soch, like, we've had some really bad years, especially like 2017 and 18. And the question becomes like, what do you cut it? When you're like, yeah, this is it, we're out. And, and thank God we didn't, but who knows? Maybe if we had, there'd be something different I would be doing right now that would be just as good or better. But there is that question, like, when to let go. And I think that also goes back to probably the problem solving skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and asking yourself the right question. Mm-hmm. Why am I considering letting go? Why am I not letting go?
Yeah.
what's going on inside, right? Like what is really at play here? Is this just my pride and my ego?
Yeah.
Return on ego is a big ROE, right?
Yep.
It's big ROE, and we get a lot of that. So we have to be careful. Is it my ego talking, or what is this? Right? Is it really my problem solving skill? So yeah, so dive after that. Go deeper, push harder, and find out. Because I think you're right, Michelle. I think we can let go, and I don't think it is always a lose. I agree, but often it feels that way.
It feels that way. Well, and I'm driven often. This is so hard to admit. Well, it's not hard. It's true, but it's hard to admit publicly. I am driven by spite, not, let me rephrase, not by spite in the sense that I want to hurt somebody for something that they've done, but kind of like an I'll show you. So you tell me I can't do something. I'm going to do it 100 times harder because someone told me they couldn't. When somebody does something that I would say is not nice or not great for me, then I'm going to work twice as hard, not to hurt them, but to prove them wrong, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but, like it kind of like, to me, there's that like, when do I recognize, do I let it go or do I just keep pushing forward? And it's really, to me, I have to come down to sit with myself and say, is this really what I want? Or am I doing this because I have some deep-seated feeling of inadequacy that I have to like push forward because this person thinks I'm not capable?
Yeah.
Or hard to answer often.
Yeah. Well, I think spite is not necessarily a bad thing. I think we need to remember the other half that often comes in that is silent, and that's spite and malice. Yes. Spite is okay. I think, my 8th grade guidance counselor told me that I should stick to a easy math because I was always going to work at the gas station. Right. And so that still drives me today, still drives me forward.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that opportunity that I've been able to overcome that many, many, many times. That's spiteful, for sure. Not pride. That's spite, right? For sure. But there's no malice there. I don't wish him ill will at all. I just want to prove him wrong. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's perfectly fine. And I think that's perfectly normal, for folks to do. But some people shut down over that. So if you hear that voice, I would encourage folks to use that as fuel instead of as something that shuts you down.
So yeah, I agree. And it is what I do. We have a few minutes left because I know you have to take off. So I want to give you the floor to tell people, like, there's a lot going on in the world.
Yeah.
It is a struggle, and I'm doing my best to try to like keep people not like toxic positivity positive, but keep people kind of like just feeling okay, because like, again, everyone knows my feelings on Trump, so whatever. So the first 4 years he was in office, I was a very different human, and I do not want to go back to that human. I don't want to live in that space of anxiety and anger and like I keep telling people, I think Sarah Silverman said it, like, this isn't the first time in history we've had outrage. This is just the first time in history that people have made like millions upon millions of dollars off of our outrage because everyone's outraged on social media. And so what would be your words of wisdom for people who are like, regardless of how they feel on Trump, or because everyone's affected in different ways, like, like to help them through the next
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years or 3.5.
Yeah, right. However long it's going to be when this.
I'm not counting down or anything, but
yeah,
who's to say it's going to end there? But yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's whatever the time is, let's first assume that we all have a purpose. The purpose is not to be outraged. The purpose is not to be angry. The purpose is not just to fight against some outside force.
Yep.
We have to worry about our own life. We have to worry about the people that are closest to us. We have to control what we can control. So my encouragement is sometimes take a break, focus on ourselves, focus on putting your own oxygen mask on first, and taking care of your family, take care of yourself, right? Self-care is really big. And then go back and fight some more. The whole thing is we're programmed in our brain, to your point, to just fight. It's fight or flight.
Yep.
And some people are going to fly. Some people are going to fight, but I would also include rest. So take a rest so that you can fight some more.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know, you need rest, you need sleep, for sure. You need to breathe. These silly things that we talked about at the beginning, they're all so true. If we want to be resilient for the long haul, we can't always be resilient in the short term. So we have to remember that. So I would just encourage folks that, you know, sometimes you don't have to fight every battle. In fact, I'd encourage you most of the time, you don't have to fight every battle. Pick the battles that are worth fighting for you. Fight those as hard as you can. When you're done fighting them, take a break, breathe, spend some time by yourself, spend some time with the people you love, people that love you, and be. Just be. Don't do so much, but be. And just be you and be okay with that. And I would say, last but not least, I would say, remember that this is temporary. This is not going to happen forever. Whatever happens, it might hurt. And I say that as a privileged white man. I'm going to be really clear. I say that. I know I'm a privileged white man. I know that is true. That being said, most things are temporary, even if we think they're permanent. So embrace the temporary, embrace the now, and then let go of the rest as much as you're able, and you'll be better.
Love that. Words of wisdom from Phil Gershek. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Phil, for being on episode 43 of Social Soup. I am your host, Michelle DeTilio, and have a great weekend. And thank you for being here, Phil.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Social Soup. I'm your host, Michelle DeTilio. And if you like our flavor, please be sure to rate, review, subscribe, or visit getsosh.com. We'd love to be your marketing sous chef.